Hey guys, welcome back to Feather's Charm. I'm Feather and welcome to this episode of a new series here on this channel called Behind the Stitch. This series is for all those beginners who want to know how to create a stitch in crochet, who want a little more in-depth knowledge about each stitch and other aspects of crochet itself, and who want to just have those little step-by-step tutorials that help you out with your own crochet projects. Before we begin, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share and follow me here on YouTube, on my social media channels and on my website featherscharm.com. It'll really help me out to create more content like this for you guys, and if you guys want to be a part of the creation process, please do leave your comments and feedback and I will do my best to act upon them. So today's episode, we are looking at the foundation chain or the chain stitch. Now this is the basic of the basics, and it is the most vital part of a crochet pattern because without it, there would be no pattern. So what is the chain stitch or foundation chain? So in a crochet pattern, you'll see the abbreviations CH or ST. Now CH, as you can probably guess, means chain. It's the abbreviation for chain, while the ST abbreviation is for stitch. Now a stitch can be anything from a chain to a single crochet or a double crochet or anything in between. But essentially it is the same, and ST can also be used for chain. So let's get into making the foundation chain. So you're gonna want to take your yarn and weave that around your fingers. So what I like to do is weave it in and out of my fingers like so, and double loop it on my index finger. Now for me this is comfortable. For other people they weave it around in other ways, but this for me is the best way because I've done it since I was 11 years old. As you can see, I have double looped my index finger to keep it secure. Other people like to weave it like this or like this. It just depends on what you find comfortable. For me, I like to weave it like this. So I weave it in and out of my fingers like so, and then double loop it around my index finger just to secure it in place for the very first stitch. So I just hold the tail end between my middle finger and my thumb, and that's what I find most comfortable. And again, it doesn't matter how you weave it as long as you weave it around your fingers. So next we're going to take our crochet hook and we're going to twist it around the yarn that you see here. You're just going to want to twist the hook, and as you can see there's a little loop there where the tail end and the longer side of the yarn meet. You're just going to pinch that between your middle finger and your thumb to keep it secure in place so that it doesn't move. And as you can see, I move my hook around, I pull on it, I tug on it, it doesn't move. The next thing you're going to do is to loop the yarn again around your hook. And yes, you need to use that hook part. So you need that hook to bring it through the loop that's already on your hook. If you don't hook it, it's just going to fall off the hook, as you can see here. So you're going to need to use that hook. So that hook helps you to bring the yarn through the loop that's already on your hook. So the hook, the loop that I'm pointing to here, that's the loop that you need to bring the second loop through. And that's it. That's your very first chain. But we don't call this a chain. This is actually called the slip knot, because it helps secure the foundation chain in place. and you're not going to even use it in the rest of the pattern. It's just going to sit there. So all you have to do is tighten it up to make sure that the foundation doesn't come loose. And the next thing you do is create the chain, which is doing the same thing except for the first part. So you don't need to make the first loop again. You just need to hook your yarn around your hook and then bring it through the loop that's already on your hook. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your very first chain. So we'll just keep going, just keep practicing this motion, because that'll help you to create even chains and equal sized chains. Now, as you can see here, I've chained about 4 chains. In a crochet pattern, you'll see the abbreviation CH4. That literally means chain 4. So all you have to do is make a chain of 4. So I want to make a chain of 20. In a crochet pattern, it'll be called CH20. Now, at some point, you might have noticed that I have gotten rid of the second loop around my index finger. That's absolutely fine, that's normal, and you don't need to worry about me having that double loop again, because that double loop only helped me create the slip knot in the first place, because it helped secure the yarn a little more tightly. But now that I don't need to create a slip knot or make my chains really, really tight, I leave that second loop out. So as you can see, I've done my 20 stitches and they are relatively even. So if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, sorry about this, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. I have my 20 stitches and we have a loop around my hook. Now that loop doesn't count as a stitch or a chain, and as you can see, the V shapes are what make up the stitches, the chains. Also, on a side note, this little piece of yarn at the end, that's called the tail, and that's not really necessary, that's not needed, but I don't cut it because I can easily weave it through the pattern, and it's not even worked on at all unless we go into more advanced techniques. Now this part of the yarn that is connected to the ball of the yarn, that's called the working yarn. Now this loop here, that loop is called the working loop, or at least I like to call it the working loop, because you're still working on it to create the next stitch. But the chain that I've just made, the chain that it's coming through, that is the last stitch. So now let's take a look at what makes a chain even, uneven, and how best to avoid it. The first thing that I would say is practice. All you need to do to make your stitches even is to practice. But there are 3 aspects of your crochet projects that you need to also be aware of. Now that is the size of the yarn, the size of the hook, and the tension in your yarn. Now the tension is caused by the weave around your fingers. So as you can see here, my weave is relatively loose, but it's also pretty tight compared to some of the other ways that people weave their yarn. But if I undo one of the loops in my weave, then it will make bigger chains. If I add another loop onto my finger, then it will make my chains tighter. but it just depends on that tension between your fingers and the yarn, how big your chains will be. Now, the second aspect is the hook size. The hook size is what creates the size of the chain itself. So as you can see, if I use a smaller hook that's significantly smaller than the one that I've been using, as you see the blue one that I'm holding now, that will create chains that are a little bit smaller than what you've seen me do before here. So if I create chains like this, as you can see, the chains are a lot smaller, and I am struggling a little bit with this yarn because the hook is too small for the yarn. Now, this can be demonstrated a little bit better with this hook because it is so much smaller than the others. So if you see, I'm actually tightening the yarn around it. So as you can see, the chains are much smaller than the ones with the lighter purple hook. The last factor is the yarn itself. The thicker the yarn, the thicker the hook needs to be. So if you're using a yarn like what I'm using now, you will need to use a thicker hook. So the hook that I'm using now, this one is perfect for the yarn that I'm using. If you see the pink and the yellow yarns that are decorating my side, that would need a much smaller hook because it's not as thick as the one that I'm using. Now, to finish off, I'm going to show you how to chain in the middle of a pattern. So here I've just done a row of single crochets, which we'll get into next episode, and I've started on the next row with 2 single crochets. Now, a crochet pattern might ask you to chain 3, chain 4, or however many chains that they ask for you, and they'll follow this up by saying skip however many chains you've made or however many stitches correspond with the chain. So here I'm making a chain of 3, so I need to skip 3 stitches on the previous row, and this basically creates gaps in your crochet pattern. So here I'm just skipping 3 and crocheting in the next stitch, and as you can see, there's a gap there. Other patterns will ask you to crochet in the same stitch, and this will create a little bump. This will help in patterns like lace, or in finishings and things like that, or creating V-stitches. These are much more advanced techniques, but that's essentially what a chain does. It helps to create gaps, it helps to create bumps or increases in the pattern. It just depends on what the pattern requires of you. And so that's it. We have learnt the foundation chain and a chain stitch in the middle of a pattern. We've learnt that tension, hook size, and yarn size help create different sizes of chains. And we've learnt the abbreviation for a chain and a stitch, so CH and ST. And that's pretty much it. If you guys want to know a little more in depth about the chain stitch, then check out my website, featherscharm.com. I will be following up this video with a post, an article post with a step-by-step guide, a picture guide on how to create a chain, and a little more about the crochet patterns and stitches and whatnots. But that's it from me, you guys. I'll see you next time with another tutorial. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, and follow me here on YouTube, on my social media channel, on my website, and on Patreon. That would be very much appreciated. And as always, be kind, be creative, and be unique. I'll see you later. Feather out.